The mission of this webinar or seminar is to give a overlay or an overview of the current cybersecurity landscape, especially around some of the most vulnerable breach areas that are randomly or most oftenly used by negative security actors. And that is the collaboration platform. Office 365 is the largest collaboration platform in the world as far as sharing and allowing individuals to work in line of business. So that lends to it being the most attacked, short of your deliberate infrastructure. So today we're going to give an overview of the current cybersecurity landscape and what you can do to protect yourself on one of the most used attack vectors, which is email. And with that, we'll get started. And so we're going to ask the question, how secure is your data? So data is anything that's a digital asset that has value or can be shared or can be exploited or just used to run your business. So data is agnostic, is what the data consists of and how the data is used that gives it value. And with that being said, we wouldn't see a increase in breaches, right? It hasn't slowed down, it hasn't waned, it hasn't gotten easier for individuals and organizations to protect their assets. If this is any indication about what is going on as far as our history of breaches, you can see that companies that started off as early as 2004, and when you look at that, you see that you have a history from AOL all the way up to automatic data processing to Ameritrade to Car Solutions and to Citigroup. And these are just some of the very early ones. If you're watching the news or watching any of the news media, you'll see Google, Facebook, Experian, numerous healthcare agencies are experiencing breaches, and it's by lack of notification that you haven't been inundated with even more. Only the big ones seem to make the news. And so with that being said, if we look at the history of breaches, you'll see that over the years, more and more individuals, more and more companies are becoming victim of breaches by virtue of them digitally transforming. It is inevitable that you have to evolve your business to take advantage of the evolution of technology, but at the same time, the security space was lacking in keeping up with being able to protect those assets. And that's in part because the technology wasn't as robust as it is now, or security wasn't taken as important. I think that has been a total reversal of the mindset around what security is to most companies and how to protect their assets. And so what do we do? So we're in turbulent times. So we can see the numbers. The numbers are out there on any other security webinars that you attend. But these are numbers, and I believe that they're low. 2 billion records compromised in the last year. That records could be anything from data that's put into your social media medium to your line of business to databases to medical records. The average time between infiltration and detection, and this number is definitely is low. It's 99 days. I think the average that's reported by Gartner and Forrester is 128 plus days between someone gaining unauthorized access to your infrastructure and or your data before human or automated or technical detection mechanisms have detected that negative security actor. And that negative security actor can be net new stranger or disgruntled employee or a combination of both. The $15 million in cost and business impact per breach is an average between small and large companies. That number doesn't necessarily include companies now buying cybersecurity insurance as well as paying ransomware in Bitcoin when they have been compromised. And so we have to look at that 15 million number as possibly a low number when you factor in the larger companies. So what's out there? Has anything changed? Are there any net new? And yes, we've heard of some of the more obscure vulnerabilities out there, such as Spectre and Meltdown. But more often than not, negative security actors and those who are trying to gain access to your data are not using those sophisticated attack tools to gain entry to your infrastructure. They're using the same old thing because it's profitable, low-hanging fruit. So this is part 2 of what the first part of an actor's mission is. He wants to infect you with ransomware. Ransomware is evolving, it's being modified, people are downloading tools and creating various variants of ransomware. The whole reason for ransomware is the first word in it. I am going to ransom your data or access to your data in exchange for monetary gain. And the evolution of ransomware is still prevalent and wrecking organizations, big and small. It is dubious to pay the ransom. You're not knowing whether you're going to get their actual keys to be able to unlock your data, and you may be timed. I believe there is a honor among thieves where they would give you the key, the crypto key to unlock your data, but put you on a time limit so that you would have to pay more. So ransomware is still a prevalent, low-hanging fruit and widely used mechanism to infiltrate networks for financial gain. And it's still happening. Even though the education to end users has improved, the sophisticated method to get ransomware inside your infrastructure is getting better also. And so advanced persistent threats. Advanced persistent threats are the threats that are coming from skilled individuals. This is how ransomware is being delivered. And this is coming from numerous security feeds, certs, and security monitoring entities around the world, that these are considered the most advanced persistent threats out there. It just happens to coincide that they are, not allocated, but aligned with certain countries, right? China, ATP is theirs, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Vietnam. You'll notice that there is another advanced persistent threat that's not listed there. That is the United States of America. Those other countries have us on their list because our cybersecurity efforts and our cyber and anti-espionage efforts are going as rampant as theirs. So this list is, -1. If you had Iran, we would be on there and they would take themselves off. But advanced persistent threats are skilled actors who have a deliberate agenda to gain access to data that is not theirs for exploitation. Not necessarily for monetary, but for intellectual property and a technical advantage. And so another threat out there is compliance regulations. It may seem that that's counterproductive or counterintuitive to say, hey, compliance is what's making things more secure. However, the need to become compliant sometimes creates operational gaps as companies do what's necessary to make the line of business work. And they don't necessarily adhere to the letter of the law around it or find ways to adhere to what is necessary, but not all of them. So struggling to put in compliance, and we'll show you why this right here is also considered a security nuance in combating compliance. It is necessary, it is the law, it is regulated, but it also has to be delivered with purpose and intelligence around why you have to adhere to these particular compliance regulations. And then we'll show you why that this right here, if not implemented properly, things such as PCI DSS, the European regulation GDPR, as well as known compliance and regulatory controls in the United States, HIPAA, SOX, GLB. These things right here can inadvertently cause you to have security operational gaps, and I'll show you why. Talent shortage. When we're out trying to adhere to these things, protect our data, protect our end users, protect our identities, and make sure the integrity and the non-repudiation of our data, one of the biggest security risks is the talent shortage. You by no means in the dark about how hard it is to find talented individuals to come in and help you with your cybersecurity mission. It's been reported by numerous staffing agencies, recruiting agencies, that 1.5 million cybersecurity job openings are going to be in 2019. That's next year. And our colleges are not turning out enough cybersecurity mindshare, and or the curriculums are still basic and using the traditional, CIS, IT, and things along that line. And very few entities have a deliberate or a focused cybersecurity. So finding that talent shortage push you into security risk because oftentimes you find yourself in a bidding war finding someone to help you out. So this is one that can't be underestimated. Talent shortage by trying to find the security mindshare that you need to help you guide you on your security journey. So cybersecurity is no longer a CIO issue. It is now no longer a CISO issue or Chief Information Security Officer or CSO or DPO, even though these guys and these agencies and these titles and roles have direct responsibility. When you talk about compliance and regulation, it is a CEO issue because often they are responsible. It is the old responsibility and accountability paradigm. You may not be responsible for a security breach within your organization, but you will be held accountable as a CEO. And you have to be very careful and be very knowledgeable about what your risk level is as you sign off on that you are compliant, right? As you certify the people below you. It is definitely a CEO issue at the very, very top. And to counterbalance that, if you go to the bottom of the pyramid and start your way up, it is very much so an end user responsibility, because training is going to be the most effective way to implement a security posture, as well as partnering up with the right individuals and the right companies to help you on your journey. It is not, in this day and time, an evolution to take on by yourself if you don't have to give you another set of eyes and another set of mind share for those who are in the business of protecting your data. Majority of companies are not IT companies, or they're not in the business of protecting their data. They're in the business of doing what they do for a business. So we need good partners, and we need good mind share to be able to do this. And so you look at 81% of breaches involve weak or stolen passwords, and you look at 87% of senior managers have admitted to accidentally leaking business data. That is in line to the business of doing business, right? And so cybersecurity is key to your business success. It is not the sole key. It should be part of your key. Because when you don't invest in this, the very thing that you ignore will be the very thing that comes back and disrupts your business continuity and causes you to overspend. It's that penny smart and a pound of cure mentality. We have to be very careful that we spend the money intelligently. We spend it with a focus, and we have measurable outcomes to be able to test the success and the value of investing in cybersecurity, whether that be in technology, processes, people, testing, partnerships, and vendors. But cybersecurity now in this day and age is definitely a part of your success as a company and should be part of any of the senior leadership meetings and boardroom discussion. And why so? Because in the old paradigm, this was your IT environment. You had a circle, a perimeter, a moat, a hard outer shell. So you were able to protect your assets, your people, your identity, because your traditional, not longer than 15, 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, you thought you were safe with a state-of-the-art firewall, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. But in the grand scheme, the very protocols, the very ports, the very business processes, the very data that you use to conduct your business is the same one the negative security actors, hackers, or anybody who's trying to breach are using to get in. You can't arbitrarily shut off port 443 for your web services or port 80 if you have databases or you have web points. So the perimeter mentality of protecting your assets by keeping them behind the hard outer shell no longer is relevant and is no longer effective as a single mode or single manner of protecting your infrastructure. Because in day and time, your environment is looking more like this now. Because you are spreading out your resources, your compute, your people are working all over, you're transforming digitally, you have point of sale systems, logistics, and so you have to be able to scale your cybersecurity, active intelligence, and active insights to take account for these. With the plethora of mobile devices, everything from the supercomputers that we call cell phones to tablets to portable devices that have unmeasurable amount of computing power and storage. You extend your vulnerability and your risk if you don't take into account that this is the new norm. This is the new norm of what your IT environment looks like. Whether you are still on-premise 100%, you have gone all in for a public cloud provider, or if you probably part of the majority that you have a hybrid environment and possibly a hybrid environment with on-premise as well as a multi-cloud provider. Most organizations are using Azure. They're combining that by using AWS, and then they're topping off, and maybe the app dev department is using Google. You have to build solutions in cybersecurity that scales across whatever your overall digital transformation strategy is. So what do? We got the message across that cybersecurity is serious. Give me a second here. David, can you advance the slide for me, sir?
advance for you. Hang on.
Had a little bit of technical difficulty. My apologies.
All right.
All right. Give us one moment as we rescale this. So what did we decide to do? Actually, too far back. Can we go back one? So what did we decide to do? We decided to take security seriously. We started thinking about how do we build this into all of our initiatives, and how do we look at incorporating the cybersecurity discussion to all of the things as far as growing the company, evolving, training our people. And so generally that's represented in budget. When the individuals that are responsible for coming to you to ask for more tools, more headcount, now the boardroom, the CEOs, the CFOs, the CIOs, the directors, the SVPs are saying, absolutely. And when we did that, and it was such a windfall because of all the things that were in the media to super sensationalize all the hacking, some of it valid, some of it not, we did this. We overspend, and we brought in a plethora of tools, right? All of them may be point leaders in Gartner, Forrester, and thought leaders, and definitely, best in what they do. But this, plethora of security tools that were introduced in everything from enterprise environments down to SMB to SMC and things in between created operational gaps that led into the previous slide that you have to have a mind share and a talent base to be able to manage all of these tools. And this is not indicative or isolated to enterprise environments. I've seen small to medium-sized businesses, while not having a particular product in each one of the security observation verticals here, quite a few. On average, SMBs are running anywhere between 10 to 15 different security products, counting in antivirus, different firewalls, web browser protection, automation, and security mechanisms that are included inside their physical plant, their route switch. So when you have all this, you put yourself at risk with patches, integration, mind share loss, talent deprivation, and actually burnout. Companies are being acquired, companies are going out of business. The integration, the legacy, updates, management, and patches lends itself to create a lack of protection by overprotection. All right? So, General Atomics, case study said that they had dozens of third-party solutions stitched together with duct tape and bell wire. So while they might have had the top performance and everything, they end up with security infrastructure that overlays their line of business framework and their day-to-day operation that look like this. The only thing that has anything in semblance is the color. There was no integration, no operability, no change management, and not the ability to understand that a deprivation or depreciation of one product inadvertently or unknowingly affected another. And so complexity is the enemy of intelligent security. You can overspend, you can underspend, but either of those, by combining that with bringing in too many products or not understanding the integration of those products, puts you in the worst place of not spending money on security at all. So we want to make sure that when you are spending it, you're doing intelligent security spending, right? 1.37 million on average that organization spends on time wasted on responding. A lot of time is wasted on responding to false positives. Now that's getting better with the emergence of machine learning, artificial intelligence, bots, runbooks. But if you look at 70 products from 35 security vendors, it's the average of companies with over 1,000 employees. So if we just did law of attrition and say that if you are not in that 1,000 employee realm and cut you to 500, and we cut the two numbers above that in relation, you're looking at 35 and 17. You're looking at 35 different security products across 13 or 14 different security vendors. And even if you cut that in half again and say we're still not that big, we go down to 15 security products across 7 vendors. That still can be pushing the ability to manage that and your people to respond to that over the edge. So reducing complexity can eliminate many security challenges. It goes back to the old adage, keep it simple. Simplicity does not mean lack of functionality. what it often brings you is the ability to really hone your skill set. The old fear about putting all your eggs in one basket is no longer a valid concern. There are top-line security companies that have total incumbency suites, and Microsoft is one of those companies. It's quite frankly the largest security company a lot of people have never heard of before. Microsoft spends in excess of $2 billion a year on security, and that is security inherent to maintaining our infrastructure, Azure, protecting 365, and the products that we sell and or invest in. That is not counting acquisitions, right? This is counting only grassroots, in-house spending and development. That does include acquisitions that we do. So how do we go about that? And we do it in this manner. We look at what's the most common attack vector and what is the most prolific Microsoft platform out there. O365 is the largest Microsoft consumer product out there, with Azure close second, and not counting traditional Windows servers in the desktop. But email and the sharing of data via the collaboration, whether it be OneDrive, SharePoint, email, Teams, or any other things you can get inside this 365 suite. It's been found that if you send an attacker sends 100 people in your organization an email, 30 people will open it. Some form or fashion, they're going to open that email if it looks halfway legitimate. 12 people will open the attachment and click on the link, especially if the phishing attack or the formed email looks reasonable enough and looks like it comes from a trusted source, right? Because they're not really trained to understand that I could copy or a negative security actor can spoof your domain, especially individuals or organizations that don't have things such as DKIM and DMARC, and would do so in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So you're looking at a payload of 100 emails, 30 people, 12 will open the attachment, click on the link, and someone has access to your infrastructure and can start probing and infiltrating you and delivering more malware in less than 4 minutes. And this has been proven in penetration testing. I've done it in combination with social engineering. This is a real threat. Not being able to lower that number, because email is probably the lifeblood of a lot of businesses, right? Communication. So 5 of the most notable phishing attacks in 2018. The malicious email sent from compromised MailChimp accounts. You're looking at a mass emailing company that has been whitelisted by numerous ISPs as being legitimate and having their IP addresses, and done all the things necessary to prevent spoofing, prevent impersonation, but them themselves were compromised. So now they are sending malware from trusted accounts and people that were compromised. Number 2, the very regulations that are put in place to protect user identity and data, negative security actors are realizing that if someone sends you a put out the fire, you need to comply to GDPR-related phishing email scams, and it seems very official because that's the word of the day, they're taking advantage of what's the hot item out there that people are going to click on. CIOs are going to look at GDPR. They're going to look at GDPR summits. Come to this seminar. Get GDPR certified. You are at risk if you don't. You could be fined $4 billion a year. Tax season. Number 3, this is a reoccurring season for hackers, just like the seasons of nature. Between December and March, tax scammers begin masquerading as H&R Block, tax cut, the IRS, combining that with phone call attacks, telecom masquerading, and sending things out that look super official, right, by changing one letter. You'd be surprised that if someone changed the URL or the domain suffix in an email from irs.gov to irs.govv, people will fall for it. It looks legitimate. Number 4, attackers launch an interior campaigns experiment with shortcut and web queries. Because we're getting so much more sophisticated and sharing and collaborating, hackers are understanding, negative security guys and exploiters are understanding we can build sophisticated tools. Hackers have the same tools that we are using to prevent them from gaining access. So education is going to be a big part of it. The old adage of looking at movies and seeing a person with a hood over his head in a dark room typing on keyboards and launching archaic commands across a bash shell is not happening. They are standing up robust cloud environments, superpowered machines to do things from, installing coin miners on your infrastructure to mining coins themselves. And number 5, Hackers are taking advantage of the moral compass, shaming those who they believe that they can blackmail by saying, we knew you went to a site of ill repute. We believe that you did this. It may or may not be true, but you want to know, why would someone send this type of email to me? Is someone trying to frame me? If you look at the current landscape of what's going on, people are taking their personal reputations very seriously, and so people are being exploited by saying, we noticed you did this because we pulled this data, and if you don't tell us or sign in and do this, we're going to release this email out to other email addresses that we have. These are the top 5 phishing attacks so far this year. And so how do we combat that, right? Well, how do you defend against phishing attacks? Because the phishing is not going to stop, right? It is low-hanging fruit. It's easy. You can't just shut off your email. So you have to become very diligent in understanding and protecting your environment and educating your user. So what are the top 5 things that I would recommend and what Microsoft would recommend? Well, personally, me. Call Cloud AG. Cloud AG is a Microsoft partner, very versed in security, extremely versed in 365 and the security controls that go along with deploying 365 in your environment. You want to buy and use M365. There are a lot of collaboration tools that are very powerful, and those collaboration tools are lock in step with the security tools that come alongside them. So they're not isolated. So when you're using SharePoint, you're using OneDrive, you're using Teams, you're using Skype, you're using Flows, you can rest assured that those security controls can see those operations from who is sharing files. Is there PII being shared in those files? Do you have internal contributors or internal collaborators that are doing negative operations, right? If I had to have one technical control to put in right off the bat that will make your life much easier, turn on multi-factor authentication. If the Facebook hat doesn't, open the eyes of individuals that these big companies are not going to protect your data ad hocly they're going to make the controls available to you necessary to do it. If you're using any platform that requires an identity and is public, you should turn on multi-factor authentication. If you can't do it for all of your users because of line of business, technical limitations, administrative or privileged accounts. If you're an Azure global admin, if you're a domain admin, something, you need to turn multi-factor on. It should be what you know, who you are, and what you have. And multi-factor authentication can be extended out to conditional access. Number 4, and we're going to get to this later on the slide, use Secure Score. If you are in 365 and you don't know your score, you need to refer back to number 1. Secure Score is an inherent security tool embedded inside 365 that gives you a baseline. Are you truly turning on and using the security controls, the insights, and the ability to report real, positive, and confirmed attempts against your organization? In case 1, 2, 3, and 4 don't resonate, number 5 is C 1 through 4. These things will put you in a better place. Now, how do I turn that into something that's non-technical, Ed, and give me some verbiage around? What does that look like, right? Give me some check off some task items. So I boiled this down to 5 high-level, roles or groups within your organization. The executive. The executive to hackers and phishers and ransomware are whales. C in your title makes you a target. You're a high-value target. CIO, CEO, CFO, C something. If I can get you, that means that I have a very attentive audience. And more likely than not, people are going to trust the executive sending them an email saying to get this done. The administrative assistant, probably the second most powerful, if not the most powerful role on this slide deck. Because in some organizations, she is delegated to the executive that she supports into the event that she has access to him or her email address to be able to send ads, to respond to meetings, trusted person to manage schedules, and often than not has their privilege and their identity elevated to a level that's equal to the executive or sometimes IT to get the job done. Next is the salesperson. Salespeople or the rainmakers in the company don't like to be limited, so they sometimes get a pass saying that they need to do their jobs. They're too busy to do this. There may often not be able to come into the organization where they're receiving patches. They're making sure that their email malware and antivirus is up to date, right? And sometimes they get so much email that they don't spend more than 2 to 7 seconds to scan an email to move it forward, because their moniker is always be closing. Human resources. Human resources, you either love them or hate them. You love them when everything's good, you don't have any issues. You hate them when it seems like there's so much red tape. But human resources is the person that all come to and they see all. And often, they are the targets of it because they hold the PII. While the executive and administrative assistant may hold financial information that's being transformed or relationship information, the salesperson may have information about your customers so that hackers can then go after them. Human resources knows everything about your employees. They need to be trained. They need to be protected. Because if I can get access to them, I get access to you. And I can get access to the information that allows me to go out and do very sophisticated impersonation. And last but not least, all the other 4 are relevant to every employee. You should have an educational campaign and reward your employees. What that reward looks like is really up to the organization and what their initiatives are. But employees should understand that they are part of the initiative, that they're part of the success of the company, and then security is everyone. It's not just the IT department. It's not just the security department. It's them saying, this looks wrong. Or someone came into the building, we didn't have an appointment, and they're installing access points, or they're sending emails asking for me to update my antivirus. Employees should know things as simple as, I got an email today to update my Kaspersky or McAfee antivirus, but we don't use that. We use Windows Defender. This is an education. And these things are going to come in via phishing attacks because people are busy doing their jobs and they're trusting that you and or your partners are protecting them and educating them. So how do we help with that? You got to protect it. Data, firewalls, all these other things, they're no longer the control plane. Identity, hence multi-factor authentication. If I can impersonate you, or I can steal your credentials and log on as you, or I can spoof you, then I can get in. Because now I look trusted. So you have to protect the identity. Identity is the new perimeter. It is the new control plane. And so the identity is really part of your email address. Your logons more often than not is looking like your email address, especially if you're using Azure Active Directory or you're using a fully qualified UPN. So it's your company at blah, 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 which often corresponds to your email address, which makes your identity a prime target to be attacked. And so common attacks look like this. Negative security person plans. And when they plan, I start looking at employees. I may go to something I gathered from Facebook or Equifax or someone. I line that email address up with your company. And then I go out and I create my attack dossier. I go to LinkedIn. I go to see who's searching job sites. And then I build my attack platform. And then I send an email. The user opens it. I gain access to the workstation. The threat actor uses the stolen credentials, and I move laterally, especially if I hit a home run off the first bat and get someone who has elevated privileges. Chances are it won't be your IT staff. It'll be someone who's doing business but had to have their account elevated to be able to make a piece of software work. And so when they click on that link in email, I'm in. And I'll start moving laterally to see who else can I compromise. Because I don't want to delete anything. I want to be undetected. And I can start accessing personal identifiable information. And then when I can say something that makes you trust me in the email, you'll click on the email even faster, or the link. And so when you look at it, we start looking at device compromise. I've compromised the email. Now I need to compromise the device so I'm persistent. So even if you turn on the anti-phishing, it's too late. I have a persistent workload, ransomware, or if I decided that, no, I don't want to just hang around. I'm going to encrypt your data because I want immediate monetary gain. So that's device compromise. If you look at the next, this is how Office 365 can protect you across all their attack plane. This is what M365 does. We have advanced threat protection to look at things such as phishing attacks. We have Windows 10 technology on Device Guard, Credential Guard. We have enterprise mobility and security being able to conditional access and threat protection for those advanced threats with conditional access. We look at all these things. We got published guidance, protective technology solutions. And you look at this layered protection. Defense in depth is what we're looking at, right? Not point solutions and integration. So what makes Microsoft different, right? It's not because we are number 10 across the board in everything. Our strength is this, which you won't find in the majority of our competition. When you look at Exchange Online and online protection, because 365 is an ecosystem, the attack on someone else uses it help inoculate other users of the platform. And so when someone is attacking a particular company, an entity, no matter what region of the world, when we defend and protect that, or you put in controls without knowing or without gathering any information that would identify that person, Microsoft is better able to put security controls and roll out fixes on the platform because the integration is there. All the APIs talk. And so if you're doing something in SharePoint and something happens there, it's going to protect OneDrive. If something happens in OneDrive, it's going to protect Exchange Online or Mail. And then when you look at these tools, we are best of breed with everybody from Proofpoint to Mimecast to iMport. We have dynamic delivery safe for attachments. We have Threat Explorer, Compliance Manager, Attack Simulator. And if you've not heard of these things, this is a good time to call Cloud IG, who is a very well-versed partner in how these security tools work and how they can get them deployed and assist you in deploying these tools. So what if, you say, yeah, I agree. This is what we need to do. But golly, there's so many things. How do we get around it? How do we have a pane of glass that we can know where we are? How do we know if we've been effective? This is where SecureScore comes in. You look at SecureScore and you go, I made these changes. I've done this. How is it affecting my security policy? It gives you a number that helps rate your effort and helps rate the effort of your partner coming in to assist you. So Microsoft Security Advantages. You saw the other slide that had a plethora of all types of security controls and products, right? So what makes us different? Holistic security. Individual components are purposely built to integrate. Purposely built. Security is built in. It's not bolted on. It is built into the makeup of our products. The collaboration is security built in, not bolt on. Security tools are informed by trillions. Think of how many people use Azure Active Directory and Office 365. You have a hive mind, you have a high protective environment. They extend to other platforms. So if you're using Salesforce, you're using Concur, you're having other things that are SaaS applications. We have partnerships with them so where we can look at their APIs and extend that control and look at that intelligence and oversight and introspection. And so when you go that route, this is what you get. Now this looks busy. This is the Microsoft Security Reference Architecture. This is also talking about things, This is a holistic look at all our security tools. The one thing that you see that differentiates this from the one that had all the other tools, integration. Every workload in this diagram talks to every other workload and has security telemetry. This is our strength. When we build a product, it helps make this cybersecurity reference. Notice that this is a security reference, and if you look to the right-hand side, you see collaboration, you see identity, you see data storage, you see SQL, you see the things that you need as a business to keep going. In the upper left, you see the things that Cloud AG can provide. They can be your security operations center. Your trusted security advisor is needed by taking their expertise in security tools and extending it out to you. And then at the very bottom, the Trust Center and Intelligence Security Graph. There is nothing like the Intelligence Security Graph. It pulls in trillions of bits of information and able to disseminate that information and be able to go out and make intelligent design and remediation and our response. That is the differentiator between us. Our platform on Azure, our collaboration platform, as well as our developer platform, which is now Azure DevOps. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to David, and he's going to talk about how to consume and how to make sense of the things that we talked about today. And so, David, I'm going to hand it back over to you, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. really appreciate that insight. A lot of good information. As you talked about some of the things that companies are doing, I hear more and more of my colleagues out there talking about how the IT groups and companies are doing the education to the end users and then testing that by sending out fake phishing emails or scam emails and monitoring how many employees are actually clicking on it, and then they immediately follow up with the employee again as a reminder of the education. So there's a lot of need for education in addition to tools out there and awareness of what actually going on. One of the things that we also recommend to our clients outside of the core Office 365 and Microsoft 365 capability is adding on what's called granular backup and restore. And what that's all about is really giving customers the ability to recover in the event something happens to their data, or if they need to take ownership of their data completely. Microsoft, does a great job of managing back-end infrastructures for Office 365. So each of you running Office 365 are being served out of a data center somewhere in the U.S. probably, and your data center is mirrored in the event that a hurricane Michael comes through and wipes out your primary data center. Microsoft does have the ability to restore service by switching you over to a mirror data center. So they really do a great job of catastrophic failure back-end services. But what Microsoft really is not in the business of is if an employee either accidentally or maliciously leaks information, whether it be documents or email, or if an employee clicks on that link and unleashes ransomware, which then encrypts their documents. Microsoft is really not in the business of helping recover from those granular type of events. And that's really what this solution that we're going to talk about is intended to do, is provide you with the ability to easily restore information, restore data in the event of accidental or malicious type of attack. The solution is very easy to use, and this is available. Not either you can subscribe to it and manage yourself, or we offer it as a managed service, but it's built from ground up specifically for Office 365. And it will provide granular backups and restore capability for all the assets in Office 365, whether it be Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, even groups and teams are being backed up and managed now. And so with the solution, there's a dashboard that shows you that everything is being backed up. It does a full backup and then does incremental backups multiple times a day. It really is hands-free driving of your backup solution. So, once the solution is set, it does a great job of basically just running and only alerting you or us as your managed service provider in the event that something couldn't be backed up. If there's a situation where you need to do a restore, very easy to do, to go and you can select which one of the assets that you want to restore, whether it be you want to restore Exchange, or maybe there's a document within OneDrive, or maybe something with SharePoint that needs to be restored. You can go in and say, that's the area I want to restore. An Exchange example, I can go in and pick point in time restore. So I can start with the calendar-based view of all my backups and say, I know that information existed maybe 2 weeks ago, and I want to select maybe a certain backup that I want to restore from. And then I can go in and select mailbox in this case, or I can restore at any level. I can go in and not only restore at the entire mailbox level if it's an email restore, but I could restore a specific folder if I wanted to. Or I could even go down to a specific email I'm with. So here's an example of individual email items. And whenever I select that I want to restore, I can also determine where I want to restore it to. I can put it right back where it was. I could restore it to somebody else's mailbox, or I could restore it to a different location. So the ability, again, to respond, in this case, what we're showing is an example of email. It would be exactly the same for OneDrive. I could select the entire OneDrive or just a folder within a used OneDrive or just a document within a folder within a OneDrive. Same goes for SharePoint, a certain site collection or individual sites or individual items within sites. So again, the ability to do granular restores of your data. Kind of getting to the tail end, I do invite you, if you would like to ask some questions, to do so in the chat window. We're going to wrap up with just a little more about kind of how we can help you navigate through the different threats and the different solutions available to protect those. Our company, when you look at what we do for a living, it's all Office 365. So we focus 100% on this platform. We help organizations move to the platform. We help configure different aspects or capabilities within the platform. We also do managed services, so we can provide a service, administrative and management of your Office 365 environment. We can help you protect as well. And so all we do is understand what's going on in Office 365 and help our customers and our potential customers navigate to the right products, the right solutions, and activating the features to be able to enhance the overall experience. And so one of the low-hanging fruit that Ed mentioned before was the ability to move into some of the solutions that Microsoft offers naturally with Office 365 that will provide the additional capabilities for managing threats and protecting against threat, and also the backup. And put this together just as a quick example of what the financial side might look like. Many of our customers running what we call Business Premium, which is just one plan. I know that everybody is not on the same plan, but just as an example. And Business Premium costs $12.50 a month per seat, and you can upgrade that plan to a Microsoft 365 with advanced threat protection and provide a whole bunch of additional capability, including it includes also Windows 10 Defender, device protection for your endpoints and mobile devices, and then the overall advanced threat protection solutions that Ed talked about. And so a very simple upgrade of your current licenses to include some of the things that can really help protect against many of the malicious things that are going on out there. And then even taking it further of adding a backup solution that we talked about, moving, and layering that into where you now get what's, in addition to everything just mentioned, also the ability to granular backup and restore, and be able to take care of the situations where something either accidentally or maliciously got deleted. So these are things that we can help guide you if there's a path to add some of these capabilities as well, where you can do individual subscriptions to different packages. So there's different ways of approaching it, and then that's where we can help you navigate, what's the right plan, what's the right add-on for what it is that we're trying to achieve. We've also helped outside of the security. We've also helped enhance Office 365 experience by providing something that really enables your SharePoint usage. We have a product called ServicePoint 365, which is an application that enables SharePoint Online around company intranet, client management, project management, proposal resource management, and this is a layer that really helps organizations who like the idea of using something like SharePoint Online as a central repository for all your business documents. This is an app that can really help you get up and running very, very quickly and take the guesswork out of what it takes to go configure and set up SharePoint Online. We've done all the heavy lifting for you, and so this is also something you can turn to us for. And kind of wrapping things up, we do appreciate all of those who have attended and those who have watched webcast replay, which is going to be available. We have a couple free offers. Ed had talked about the Secure Score, and so one of the free offers is we can help you determine what your Secure Score is. And out of that, there can also be action items that might come up, which is some of the low-hanging fruit, for instance, like turning on multi-factor authentication. And those are all examples of additional services that we can help you actually implement some of the recommendations from SecureScore. But the first part is really just knowing where you're at. We also would like to offer to you a free trial of the back service that I mentioned, which does backups for Exchange, SharePoint, Drive, Teams, and Groups, and then also a free trial of the ServicePoint app. So if you have an interest in using that with your SharePoint environment. Well, thank you again for your attendance today, and we will send out the webcast link for this replay. And please give us a ring. You can use info@CloudAG and alias. And many of you know some of our team. Clay Hovater is one of our client managers who can also help with any of the questions you might have regarding licensing or additional services. So thank you again for your time, and we'll go ahead and sign off now.